So I have a bit of art fair drama to share with you today. Last weekend, I was selling my work at an art fair, and I've done this show before one previous year, a couple of years back. But this time, when I did the show, something that never happened to me before at an art fair happened. I had the organizer come by my booth and tell me that there were complaints about my art booth, and specifically some of my signage. This caught me completely off guard because I consider myself to be a really good art booth neighbor. I'm not doing things that are annoying other artists, but evidently at this show I was. So that's what I want to discuss in this video. As you can see here on the front of my booth, this is the price sign in question. It says $17.99, and it basically tells customers that I have prints in the print bins inside my booth of everything that you can see hanging. And I do this because people who are walking by my booth need to know that I have affordable art. Ultimately, most of my buyers are either families with children or people who are looking for gifts for other people. And these types of buyers want affordable art. They are not looking to buy $500 or $1,000 original paintings to put in a kid's room. I mean, would you be buying an original painting of that price to put in your kid's room? No. And so that's why I have the signs out there on my booth. It's a signal for buyers who are walking by that, hey, I have something that fits their needs. I mean, that's the point of why we are doing these events. We are trying to showcase our work and get people to buy it. We are trying to make a living. And in fact, I have used these same exact signs at the previous time that I did this same exact show 2 years earlier, and no one ever said anything. So what gives? I mean, why did these artists seem to all gang up on me and blame their lower sales at the event on me? Because that is what the organizer seemed like they did. She told me that a whole lot of artists, like not just one artist, but she had multiple complaints from multiple different artists about my price signs cheapening the show. I'd also like to add in here that it wasn't until Sunday mid-morning, so this was the third day of the show, that the organizer came by my booth to tell me about this. So there were several days where artists were trying to sell and not selling and looking for a reason, something to blame their low sales on. So when the organizer told me that all of these artists had been complaining, I said, look, there's nothing in the rules that says anything about the size of signs and whether I can have price signs on the outside of my booth or anything like that. And she says, well, that's true, I know, but there have been so many complaints and I'm just trying to keep the peace. I also pointed out to the organizer that I saw on their social media that one of their posts talked about having affordable art. I was like, look, this is affordable art. And I pointed to my booth and she was like, yes, that's true, but I still need to keep the peace. Can you please remove the signs? And I'm like, okay, I'll remove the signs. So I took the signs down, and then after a few moments I started just feeling bad about it. I was like, why did I take these down? I shouldn't have to remove my signs that are helping me sell work at an event that honestly I was having a hard time selling work at. I actually made half as much this year selling there than I did in the prior year. The prior year I made over $10,000. This year I made just over $5,000 in sales, which isn't anything to complain about. That's a good amount of sales, but it is half of what I earned compared to the previous year. And this is the thing about art fairs. There's so many different factors. It wasn't my sales sign that was causing a problem for everyone. Honestly, I think it was the turnout for the show, because most of the people who showed up didn't seem to have a lot of money, and there were less people there than there were in the previous year. They weren't looking to buy big pieces. They were looking to buy really affordable things. All of the sales I made were under $100. This means that the number of sales that you need to make is really high to be able to make a lot of money. You have to have huge numbers of customers rolling through your booth to be able to make $10,000 if every sale was only $100 or less. And a lot of the sales I was making were only $20, like for a single print. So you gotta run the numbers in your mind. But it takes a lot of sales at an event to make money when people aren't spending higher dollars on things. And the previous time I did the show, I sold so many many things off my walls that were $200 or $300. And so it was just easier for me to make sales at that previous show. So this is probably what all of the other artists were experiencing as well. And if they didn't bring cheap items, like $20 items like I did, then they were probably having a hard time selling and looking for a reason outside of themselves to blame it on. And well, I guess my signs were that reason. After a bit more thinking on it, I decided to replace my large $17.99 sale sign with a smaller $17.99 sale sign. I did take one of the signs completely off the outside, so it was down from 2 big signs to 1, and I just left it like that because I figured this is good enough. I went and walked around and looked at the other booths, and I could see that they had also big price signs on their print bins that weren't any larger than the sign that I placed on the front of my booth. I was like, look, if she comes back again, I'm just gonna tell her, no, I'm not taking it down and be done with it. Well, later she did walk back by my booth and look, and she kind of read the sign and stopped for a moment, but decided not to come in and say anything about it further. So I guess I did the right thing. But here's the other thing I did to help boost my sales. Because of taking down those signs, people couldn't see that I had $17.99 prints as well. So what I did was I stood out in the middle of the sidewalk, and everybody that was walking past my booth, I said, hey, I have $17.99 prints inside. And I told everybody this time and time again, and it really boosted the traffic in my booth. But I could tell that my neighbors, they didn't like me doing this because it's very aggressive selling. And I don't like to sell aggressively like this for multiple reasons. One thing, I have an ongoing vocal cord issue because of my immune system, so I'm not supposed to talk that much. It hurts my voice to talk loudly, be a very aggressive seller where I'm out there telling everybody that walks by that they can come inside and purchase and all of this. It's just too much for me. And I can do it for a couple of hours, but if I were to do that for the entire day, I'd completely lose my voice. That's why I have the price signs, because it's been my way to cope with not being able to talk as much as other artists can. And I just want to say something to you, artist to artist. If you're going out and doing art fairs and you see someone else next to you making a lot of sales and you're not making many sales, you should not blame your art booth neighbor. You need to start looking at yourself and what you are doing, the quality of your work, how you're marketing it, how things are priced, how you are merchandising your booth. So exactly how you are putting your artwork out there for sale, whether it's only originals, whether you have art prints, all of that. You need to consider that before you complain about your neighbor and anything that they are doing that's causing them to make more sales than you. There's also a big difference between salesy and being clear about your prices. Now, on the one hand, I was being very salesy when I was stepping out into the walkway in between art booths and talking loudly about my prices. That is very aggressive, very salesy sales tactics. And I only went to those extents because honestly, I was kind of pissed off because I had to take down my signs. I was like, well, I'll show them. That was my reaction. And maybe it was a little bit immature, honestly, but that's how I felt at the time, and that's why I did it. But when you are being clear about your prices, having them displayed so people who are passing by can readily see them and read them, this is just transparency in your pricing. And in my opinion, if other artists can't compete with my prices, then that's their bad. It's not mine. Another thing I want to point out is to think about the entire environment that you are setting up your art booth in. Look at what the other artists are doing. Consider what the art fair rules are prior to showing up, and make sure that your booth is going to fall in line with that. Because some shows are all original shows. They would not be the type of place that you would want to have a big price sign that says there are prints inside of all the paintings that you have hanging up. Likewise, if the show allows a print bin and reproductions, which this show that I was in did, then that should be a signal that you can have price signs telling people what your products cost, and you should be able to put them wherever around the booth that you want. But keep in mind, if you do that, It may rub some artists the wrong way, I guess, if your prices are a lot less than theirs are. And I would love to hear what you all think about this. I mean, should I have removed the price signs? Did I do the right thing about just making a smaller price sign to stick out there and then going out and trying to draw people in with my aggressive selling tactics? Like, what would you have done? Post in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you'd like more information about setting up your art fair booth, check out this video. All right, thank you so much for watching. See you next time.